Welcome to Los Compas Lounge, a PSA for brown men.
We are your hosts. This is Raul.
This is Javier.
My name is Reuven, and this is a podcast about brown men talking about issues that matter to you. We talk about things that we don't usually talk about in the brown communities. We're just three regular compas sharing our experiences to inspire positive change. Compa, pull up a seat. We have one ready for you.
Hello, welcome to Los Compas Lounge. I want to thank everyone for joining, and we want to share today brown men in IT, information technology. We want to go back and start from the origins and work our way to the future.
Hey, so we have a time machine, compa?
Yeah, we're going to go on the time machine.
Yeah.
We as a Latino community, as a brown community, we have such a rich history of technology and education, with, going way back to our indigenous, ways, with the Mayan. The Mayans created the concept of zero, and the zero is the basis of everything. Zero is nothing, but it's everything, and then when you go across the globe, you realize that our Muslim or our Arabic, sisters and brothers, their ancestors created what we now know as algebra. So I mean, we have it in our history. I mean, we created this stuff. So why is it that when it comes to technology and education, and all this stuff, that we're almost like an afterthought?
So computers are based on the concept of binary, and binary is ones and zeros, and more than anything else, it's like zero is like null, like no value. And without the concept of zero, everything before everything supposedly had value, but there's sometimes some things that don't have value, which is the foundation of zero. And with that, I think it's like kind of like in our genes or something, like with the Mayans, astrologers, I mean, they had those observatories, I mean, and I just think that we don't give ourselves enough credit, us as the brown community. I don't know. I mean, when I got into IT, I mean, I was lucky. My boss, my first experience in working in the IT department, my boss was actually Latino also. And he was a good mentor. I mean, when we go to meetings or to conventions, he's hey, Javier, wear a tie tomorrow. I go, okay. And I go there and nobody else had ties. And he's all like, oh, we have to break that brown barrier. It's like, they're going to see us and they're not going to be like, what are they doing here? And really when we go there, a lot of times we were like in some big meetings, we were the only brown people there. But he wanted me to go dress nice with a tie, and everybody was just dressed, polo shirts or whatever, professional casual, I remember him telling me that we have they're expecting more of us. I forgot how he put it, but it was a good lesson that he taught me, and I learned a lot from him, not just technology wise, but also just business and how to navigate through the whole IT world.
Yeah, and I think that's what you talked about, Javi, about a simple thing is putting on a tie, because that is breaking a stereotype, and like your boss was telling you, it's like we had to work that much harder,
yeah,
to just to get on the field, to even be considered somewhat on par with with our coworkers or with our colleagues, and man, dude, sounds like your mentor was, had some cecils, man. I mean, and he had a lot of understanding of how society worked.
I mean, and this was in 97, 99. I mean, I worked in the company from 97 to 99. And actually, when I started there, I started as an accounting clerk, and because I had been working in accounting, but computers were my hobby, and my I had been working in computers since I was young. So like back then there was a program called Lotus 123, and I used to write a lot of macros to simplify my work. And so then I was able to finish all the work like a lot faster. And then some coworkers were like, how did you finish so fast? I go, oh, I wrote a macro. That what's a macro? And I showed them, oh, could you do it for me? I go, yeah. So I did it to this lady that was right next to me. Then she told somebody else, she told my boss. And so it's pretty soon I was writing macros for everybody in my department.
So Javi, you said that you originally started off as a accounting clerk. Um, for me, I would like to know how, you know, how you got into computers because I mean, I know very few, or at least when I was growing up, very few, brown men or brown boys that were into computers. We're usually into like sports or you know games or whatever. I don't know, but so how did you get into like really liking computers and all that stuff?
It's funny because it kind of happened because I sucked at soccer, you know.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
You see, my dad, he was a big soccer fan. He even played soccer like semi-professionally. Like, I mean, he played in the profession. He wasn't a professional team, but I don't think he was in like first string. I mean, I know he was in first string. But and he wanted all
You don't
his
have to be
boys.
so harsh about it. I know he was a first string.
No, but you know what? I mean, he was good. I mean, he has a picture. Actually, I have the picture right there of him in the stadium and stuff like that. And so he wanted all his boys to be good at soccer. And so he would take me. And at the time, it was only me, Raul, and David, because Eddie was way too little to be in the soccer team with us. And I had flat feet, and I guess that was another thing. I would trip over my feet a lot, it's like, and I just told my dad that really didn't know soccer. I mean, I really didn't want to play. And what happened was that at the school I went, they said, okay, we're going to have a computer club on Wednesdays after school. Whoever wants to join. I was probably like in the fourth grade or something like that, fourth, fifth grade. And so I went, and it just clicked. I just started liking it. And then my dad got me an old Commodore VIC 20. It was like you
Oh,
connected it to your
the
screen.
Commodore, man. I
Yeah.
remember that.
You know what? Here's the thing that there were the better one was the Commodore 64, because it was 64 bits, or something. I forgot. I don't know. Not 64 bits. Actually, everything was about like 8 bits. I think 64 RAM or memory or something. I don't know what the 64 stood for, but that one was the better one. But that one cost like double the VIC 20. So my parents got me the VIC 20, and man, I used that computer, and I had been learning back then. The language was basic, and not basic. Basic is an acronym for beginners. I forgot what the acronym stands for, but I know the B is for beginners or something like that. Or anyways, I started getting good at it, and what happened was that I used that thing so much that I burned the power supply, and I was scared to tell my dad because, man, like I didn't know there was just a power supply. And then my dad's all like, "Hey, how come you don't use it anymore?" I go, "Oh, I do." I go, "Let's see." He had his friends over here. Let's see, show us what you could do in the computer. And I remember I connected to the screen. And go, oh, what's wrong? I pretended like if that was the first time I noticed it. And my dad's all like, "Well, we'll get it fixed or something." He took it into some shopping, and they said, "Oh, it's a power supply," and it ended up only being like $20 or something like that. But I remember I was like sweating and everything because I mean, my dad, he paid money, but once I got that, he didn't force me to go to the soccer anymore. There was this magazine called Family Computing, and in the middle they always had a program that was about like 2-3 pages of programming. I would trick I would call my siblings into helping me type. I tell them, "Okay, look, you just type everything word by word from right here to like half a page, and then David, you type this other half, and then Esther, you, and Raul, you." And then we just type, and then we'd hit run, and it was like a video game, like one of them, it was like, it was called like, it was almost like Space Invader, but instead of being a bunch of little aliens. It was just like a comet that was just like coming down the lower, and you had to like shoot it, break it down before it gets to the bottom.
So, Javi, did you ever have like any like computer clubs or things like that that you used to go to, or like
Yeah.
like
So
a group of friends and like that were into it?
yeah, so that was that computer club. I was in it from like the fourth through the eighth grade because the school I went to graduated finished in the eighth grade, and then after that I when I went in the ninth grade, I was you know what's funny that even when I was in high school, I was a little bit embarrassed to say that that I was like a nerd undercover, you know.
But you
I
still
didn't
are,
want
we
people.
I think all of us are still nerds undercover.
But after that, there was this. After that, I mean, years later, when already as an adult and driving, you know, there was this computer club down in Orange County. It's called NOCCC, North Orange County Computer Club. And actually, I haven't gone in a long time. I think they might still be around. I used to go with Powerhouse Joe, and and also with other friends, we'd go over there. It was the first Saturday of every month. The first Saturday of every month, you'd go there, and they had different what they call SIGs, special interest groups. You know, so you say, okay, I want to learn about Linux. I want to share or I want to know about photography or about graphics, about animation, computer. And so it was in Chapman University, and so we just go over there, and you just start people just start talking about their experiences, you know, like, oh, Active Directory, I've encountered this issue. Oh, just do this, you know, or like it was cool because if something had been troubling you, there was something that you share your experiences. And I mean, it was just like an annual membership fee, you know, and you're just sharing your ideas with the
So
other
so
IT.
Javi, like in those you mentioned Powerhouse Joe. Were you and Powerhouse Joe the only Latinos, or what was your experience with that? Like with just outside of the club, meeting other Chicano Latinos from the neighborhood, or in school, and then going to these clubs. Did you notice that the 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 ethnic breakdown of those
Well,
clubs?
well, yeah. Let me tell you something, man. When I was in the seventh grade, I went to a computer contest, you know, and they had different competitions, you know, like different like tasks, you know, and different ones. And really, like in all the tasks, I ended up getting first place in one of the tasks. Like they gave me a trophy and stuff, you know. And but all the other tasks, really, they were all Asians, like Chinese, or like some like there were not many Indians when I was when I was little, or in the competition. But I remember when they had all okay, when they brought all the first place people, all the people that came out in first place to the front to congratulate them. I was the only brown one, you know, and everybody else was just Asians. Everybody, or maybe I think there was a white or something like that, you know. But like I remember that was the and like from East LA, you know, it was a competition like from schools, like it was all like junior high kids, like, and everything like that. And I was all like, oh man, that's awesome.
That's cool, man. So you were representing way back then, and here you are today, right?
Yeah. And so that's why, like, and I remember my computer club teacher, she was white also. And I remember her brother went to go talk to us and stuff like that. And I said, like, man, he gets paid for doing this all day. Like, that'd be awesome. You know, like I don't know. I don't know. I've heard this before, that do what you love and you won't work a day in your life or something like that, you know? And it's like, yeah, it's kind of, I mean, what they don't tell you is that you have to deal with the politics, policy, and everything. There's a bunch of crap that you need to deal. But most of the time, when they give me an assignment that's like all like development, like really to me, it's like a video game. You know, it's like I'm like, oh man, oh, you know. And sometimes, I mean, especially before when I was doing my independent consulting, that I didn't have to deal with office politics, you know, because it was just me. You know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, you talked about your high school experience, or middle school experience. I remember for me, the first time I work with a computer was in my junior high, and it was a new thing. It was a new class and everything. And we have to remember this was like in the mid '80s, I guess. And uh, we had a bunch of IBMs. A whole classroom was converted into our computer lab, and our Mr. Masburn. That was the teacher's name, Mr. Masburn. He was a math teacher, and just by default, and I think similar to you, he probably was really into computers, but they didn't have a computer class back then, but they did, but finally they, in middle school or junior high, we had our first class, our first computer class, and it was really cool, man. It's like, and predominantly the classroom makeup was Asian American, Euro American, and um, there was just one black black guy that was in there, and there was two Chicanos, myself and this other dude, and it never really struck me as odd that there was only two Chicanos and one black person in there because that was basically just the way it was, and even in the multicultural setting of West LA. And I remember, Javi, I loved this. Excuse me, I love this new concept and this of computing, and I was really into it. But my mom, we're like dirt poor, dude. We weren't gonna be able to afford, a computer or anything. And I remember I was really into it, but you know, the next year, we graduated to high school, and they didn't have a computer class in high school, and then from there I moved to East LA, so there went that. Uh,
As resources in East
yeah,
LA.
and thinking about it right now, it's like I never knew how much I was into computers until I started, like right now, just reflecting because I remember I was totally into it, and but unfortunately, it was almost like taken away from me because of socioeconomic my socioeconomic situation with my family, and then moving to East LA.
So it seems like, yeah, it's sad because you didn't have the resources, and you were not it was not nurtured in you, and I guess see like the difference with Javi. It was nurtured, they I'm glad that your father was able to come up with the means and buy yourself a computer. For me, my earliest memory was in elementary. So believe it or not, very similar to you, Ruben. We had a classroom that was converted to our computer science room. It was a probably Asian American teacher, really nice guy, and he sat us all down. And I believe it was the each classroom would rotate. This is at like Belvedere Elementary. We would rotate, like Wednesdays or Thursdays was this class, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, I was probably in third, fourth grade, and and I remember we had Apple IICs or Apple, those really basic, those, the apples. And I remember that they were bolted down to the desk, right? And then,
Why? In
yeah,
East
exactly. I
LA?
wonder why, but that was my introduction to computers. And there was this program, Javi. I don't know if you ever remember, but it was I forgot the name of the program, but the programming we would do was like, okay, turtle,
Oh, logo. That was logo.
logo. Okay, so turtle, two steps up, three
Yeah.
steps, three steps, down or whatever.
Repeat
Repeat. Okay,
365.
turtle,
Yeah.
pam, pam, pam. So
Yeah.
for me, that was really like cool, man. I would put in my code or my formula, press enter, run, and then you see it. And we would be looking at the instructor or the teacher telling us, okay, here's the next set of ones. And okay, when you're finished, raise up your hand. So then he would come around and we'll run it. So for me, that was really, really cool. I thought that was, interesting. But it was a little bit intimidating for me, I guess. I didn't really get into computers a whole lot, and it probably didn't help. I'm gonna blame my brother here. It probably didn't help. Like later on in late in elementary, maybe junior high, and I'm talking about computers or being talked about, and I don't know what, but I think my brother said something, and I don't think he was intentionally being mean to me, but he said, "Oh, dude, there's way more to that. There's like languages, like I don't like, dude, don't even think about it. There's Fortran. I remember him saying
Yeah,
Fortran.
Fortran formula translation. I know that
Exactly
one too.
right. He
Yeah.
said Fortran's basic and something else. Because I'm
Yeah.
learning Fortran right now, dude.
It probably
And
said,
in my mind, I was like,
COBOL probably.
yeah, there you go. It
Yeah.
was that. And he's saying that to me. And obviously, I'm the youngest of three, and he's the older brother. So I literally look up to him, and I look up to him figuratively, and I'm like, okay, so that's looking back, it's like it didn't squash it, but it was just like, well, fuck, it's this. I remember him having these fat books about Fortrans and all these languages, and I'm just thinking to myself, wow, that looks like something I don't want to
Boring
do.
or
Yeah, boring, and well, if he's doing it, then I just it was a little discouraging in a weird sense. And
uh
again, I don't know. It feels bad,
no,
like
I
I'm
know what
Well,
you're saying
it's
because
almost
I mean,
like, because he's like, he's your older brother, so obviously he's older than you.
yeah,
And, this stuff is for the big boys. I'm not a big boy
yeah.
yet.
There you go. Yeah,
Who am I to say that
yeah.
I
Sit
want to go
down,
down the
Junior.
path?
and
Yeah.
I'm sure he
Yeah.
didn't mean it to discourage you, you
Exactly, and
know?
it was exactly, but looking at it at school and then just
Yeah.
seeing again big boys doing it, and I'm like, my interest wasn't quite there.
Yeah, you're doing
Not
kitty
into it.
stuff. That's kitty stuff that
Yeah,
what you're dealing with.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so it only became my interest only became grew as obviously when in college, and I got my brother's hand me down of computer.
Yeah.
Now it was that little one, the
I
little
remember you used to have a computer
yeah,
back in
and
the
that
days. You
was
used to make us flyers and all
yeah,
that stuff.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my only biggest interest is funny. It became creativity. So, but
The
it was
graphics part.
graphics parts of it or mixing music or whatever, right? Or whatever it is. It's the creative part of it, but not the programming. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And now a brown and proud PSA. STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. A report found that STEM related jobs in computers and math are projected to grow by 12.7% by 2028. Latinos, Hispanics are the biggest minorities in the US, but we are underrepresented in STEM related jobs. So we encourage you to expose your kids to STEM focused education and careers at early ages in preschool and throughout school. To download a copy of the report and to learn more, please visit loscompaslounge.com under Resources, Brown Men in IT.
Raul, when you were talking about your Mac, that brought me back to ELAC. And at ELAC, we had a computer lab, and they were all, they were all IBMs. We even had a what do you call it? I remember oh shit, before Hobby, before there were computers, typewriters, something else, and then computers, word processor. Yeah, so there were a couple of word processor, but there were two Mac classics, and there were a few of us who understood that Macs were the primo right there, man. I remember it was the Raul, myself, Augustine, and a couple other people, and I remember we were like, we would literally have a little plan and a system in place so that we can use it. If we weren't able to use the Mac, we were like, oh man, I had to use this IBM. And for me, it was like, sort of looking back on it, was foolish, because here's the dude can't even afford his own damn computer, but here he wants the Mac.
You know what I was gonna say is that, like, Raul, and you told me that your first experience was with the Mac, and I was just thinking, okay, if my first experience would have been with the Mac or the Apple at the time, I don't. I mean, I know for sure my parents would not be able to afford the Apple. So my first experience was a Texas Instrument, and then they also Radio Shack also had the Tandy. Radio Shack had computers because in the computer club there was probably about like 4 computers. They were not even, I mean, just the teacher herself, because the school didn't buy the computers. She just like, and her brother, they just had like older computers that they weren't using anymore. And so and these were more, I guess, like IBM compatible computers, and then they're a lot cheaper, so that's why my parents were able to get me the VIC 20. So in a way, I'm glad that my first experience was with the cheaper brand, or the
But I remember one of my questions was, what was your experience or observations when you would go to these computer clubs, um, with the ethnic breakdown? Was it, were you and like Powerhouse Joe like the only Latinos there, or
oh, and the computer and the other are already as grown-ups. Yeah, because I
or
did
even growing up? I mean,
yeah,
what was
no,
the
well, I
makeup?
mean, I shared about how when they brought all the first place trophy guys, that I was the only brown guy, and everybody else was mostly Asian and white, and when we go to that other computer club also, and Joe, he's a little bit like when I met him before, I mean, I actually met him in kindergarten. So he's been my friend. I was just realizing this with my wife for over 40 years, you know. But when we reconnected as adults, because there went a long time that we didn't hang out, and then he was a little bit like shy or timid or like, and I remember one time we were in one of the Linux, the Linux special interest group, and somebody was like encounter a problem, and the leader was like, oh, then and I could see Joe like shaking, and after that is Linux doesn't support LBS or something like that. And like he knew the answer, but he was embarrassed to say, like shy. And so then he just shouted the answer like Linux doesn't support like LVM or something like that. I forgot what it was. And then they're all like, "That's right. Who said that?" And he's like, he
And thus began the legend
yeah,
of Powerhouse Joe.
yeah, no, yeah, but like yeah, but in that, yeah, and the makeup, it was, I think we were the only brown ones that there, you know, like right now that I remember, because I remember the main guy, his last name was Osborne, because, well, I remember, you know, because Ozzy Osbourne, you know. And so like that, yeah. And there was mostly, yeah, but that time there was mostly whites, or at least in this club right here. I just remember there was yeah, but no, yeah,
And how did that make you feel? I mean, or were you even, or did it even matter to
it
you?
didn't matter to me. You know what?
Yeah.
The IT nerds were like, we just share, like sharing the knowledge, and I don't care if I get the answer from a white, a black, brown. I mean, because these were all enthusiasts. You know, like we're there to share our knowledge, to gain more knowledge, and it was like, I mean, I don't, I actually, I didn't even, I didn't. That thought didn't even, barely right now as you're telling me, I'm thinking about it, because in the business, when I would go to the conventions,
Yeah, that was going to be
that
my
was
next
different.
question.
Yeah,
My next question was going to be like, all right, so now, as a, as an enthusiast, it's one thing, but now you're in the professional world.
yeah,
Did you notice, the disparities,
yeah. Well,
of
what
Latinos in your professional field, and how did you, or how do you feel
you
about that?
you know what? One thing I do remember, there was this one man. One time I went to like a it was like a roundtable discussion, you know, and me and Lewis, we went there, and we were like the only brown ones. And apart from that, I was young. I was barely like not even 25. I was probably like, I don't know, like 23, or maybe I was 25. But everybody else there was like mostly like old and white. And so then they probably were thinking like, what is this kid doing here? You know, like, and I remember that when I started talking, like like they were looking at me intensely, like kind of like probably thinking to themselves like, let me see, why is this guy here? Or at least that's the way that I felt, because I just felt like, and then yeah, but what about this, you know, like kind of trying to poke holes in the theories that I was throwing there. I go, well, what you need to do is this. And then this other guy, he just kept like drilling, and I had answers to everything that he was good, like. And then he had no other option but to accept the fact that what I was saying was making a lot of sense, you know. And I think, because then after that, I remember seeing like, and he's all like, "Oh man," he's like, "That was pretty good," and so like that. He's like he invited me to go play golf, you know, and you know, he's like, "Oh, we should." He's do you go play golf? I go, usually I just hang out in the arcade or get in the on the go-karts or something like that, you know. I think he wanted to kick my ass in golf, you know, like okay, maybe you might be better in the computers, but I'll kick your ass in golf, like that's like. And I just kind of
or, or
brushed it
maybe he
off.
was. No, he was probably, because a lot of business takes place when
Yeah,
you're out golfing.
yeah,
Maybe it was a big opportunity that
you
you
know
just
what?
blew
Yeah, you know what? You know what? I know that a lot of deals are closed in golf courses, you know, and you know what? I never even thought about it that way, but it's just that the way that he came at me
it.
during the meeting. But maybe you're right.
No,
Maybe that You know what's funny? Because up until this point, I always thought that he invited me just so he could kick my ass, you know. And so you see, I'm better at you than you at this, you know.
But that's our defensive
Yeah.
mechanism, no?
Uh-huh.
As brown men, that's
Yeah,
our defensive.
exactly.
Oh, you believe? Yeah. How can this dude believe in me and actually try to build a bridge and collaborate with me and perhaps build something bigger? It's like, no, no, no.
yeah.
I know what you're
He
playing
has
with
an
me, dude.
ulterior
Yeah,
motive. Yeah.
or
yeah,
or
yeah. I
or
know what you're
maybe it's
playing.
like the
Yeah.
dude was just trying to see how how smart you
Cultured.
were.
Oh.
No,
Yeah.
well, when it came to him drilling you with the questions,
Uh-huh.
he's probably already thinking maybe this dude should be on my team. Maybe he should
Yeah.
be working for me.
Uh-huh.
So let me question him. Let's
And
see how he
he's like
how he
approach him.
yeah,
Yeah, you know
let's
what?
see how he
And here
how he
here
works under pressure and everything. And
yeah,
uh,
that's it. I felt very pressured, you know, like especially the way, and you know what? Because that was one of my first experience. I mean, the fact that I'm talking about it, that I remembered that I was all like, it was like I even felt, I felt like if I had ran a marathon or something, you know, like I felt like, but I handled myself. I mean, it's like everything I was saying was making sense, you know. But yeah, like it's funny because like what you're saying, maybe he was trying to like test my limits or let's see how I or something. But I mean, up until this point, I always took it like a little bit like a negative. I looked at that as if something negative, you know. I mean, I came out positive at the end, but I felt like if he was attacking me, I felt it like an attack, you know.
so you mentioned that Lewis was uh, a mentor, for
Uh-huh.
you, in the IT world and in the business world. Um, did were there other Latinos, or are there other Latinos in your field, or do you still see that maybe you're one of the few Latinos in your field?
No, it's growing. It's growing a lot, you know, and especially right now, I'm taking some a cybersecurity course in Rio Hondo College, and I mean, right now we're doing it through Zoom. But even when I was going into the class, and right now my teacher, he's Rios, he's and it's cool because like when he's saying the lessons, like he throws in a lot of Spanish words as he's saying, yeah, like so like this this access point, it's just more like a comadre that just relays everything that it's that it says, you know. Like he's all like
You guys are like, yeah,
yeah, exactly, like the
I
class. Oh
get
yeah,
it.
yeah, you know, like people start laughing or whatever, you know. It's just here's something and it relays it. It's just an access point, you know, and
Comadre.
yeah, yeah. You know, comadriando and stuff like that. You know, like so, like I really like this instructor, you know, because he talks in terms like talking like to like brown to, I mean, even though not everybody in the class is brown, you know, because like sometimes he has to explain himself like, oh well, like as when he says like some terms, and every so often he'll say, no, la chingadera or something like that, you know. It's a little like
So Javi, where do you think we're going? Like, what's this our future look in terms of Latinos and IT?
I think that we have a good opportunity to bring like with those whole STEM programs now and everything, you know. I really think like me, a little kid from East LA, you know. I mean, it's like um, I'm 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 working right now in IT. I'm in my department. I'm the only. Oh, actually, there's this other guy in help desk, but in the developer, because I'm a developer. I'm the only Latino, and I think it's that there could be like a lot of opportunities for a lot of more brown kids to
And how do we encourage that? Like with like, if, for example, if you were to talk to your kids about that kind of stuff.
I think one of the main things is yeah, it has to be they have to be enthusiasts, you know. You have to make it fun.
I'm glad that you said this word about enthusiasm, enthusiast, and making it fun, because as little kids, it has to be fun.
Yeah.
It has to be like relevant, instead of just, oh, okay, here's a tablet or a computer, and I'm gonna play these games or whatever it is. But what's beneath the games? What's beneath all of that? All the codes and coding stuff. That still intimidates me. But I mean, if my son or my daughter ever get into that, then for
Uh-huh.
sure I'm gonna be like nurturing it and try to pull my own resources to to support their interest,
Yeah,
whether whatever STEM it is, science, technology, engineering, or math. So for sure, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm seeing and this push and this trend for the last 10 years with STEM, and it's very valid and it's very needed. I mean, even at the library I work in, we actually have expanded our collection to include games per se, where it's all about teaching kids, and it's not just kids. It's it could be teens, it could be adults. Whoever wants to check them out about the basic programming. We understand this is where we're going. This is where we're at actually, and we're going to continue to go this way. And I see this in schools as well. They have what's known as pathways, where the students are channeled through. The good thing about pathways, as opposed to what we talked about before, about tracking, is the kids, the students, as well as their parents, actually have the choice to decide, where they want to go. So we have some that are STEM, we have some that are graphic design. We have some, that are social justice and all kinds of different things, And not every school district has this, not every school has this, but more and more are following this model. And I believe, as we always say, it begins with the family. Do the parents have the wherewithal to understand, where we're at right now, technology wise, in society, and where we're going to be? Because I think, and I'm generalizing, obviously, but as communities of color, we don't always see that, because we're working so hard just to put food on the table and to have
yeah.
a roof over our heads that, it's not that we don't want the best for our kids. I think we obviously do, but we ourselves, and once again, I'm generalizing, probably don't have that knowledge because their parents, our parents didn't have that knowledge. Where do we as parents take a stand and say, no, it stops right here and it begins right here? And for me, the bottom line is it's the education, and having those opportunities, having the resources in your community. And part of having the resources is like what Javi says is, having the brain power in the communities, having the teachers, having the mentors, having the parents that have the wherewithal and have the education and have the skills and have the experience, within the IT field to bring that to the children, and to the parents, and I think that's something we always say, oh, won't anyone think of won't anyone think of the children? I'm like, well, you know what? You have to think about the parents as well, because if the parents don't have this, this information and this knowledge, how can they pass that on to their kids? So I think a big aspect is finding a way to get the parents who are not aware of STEM, and getting them, into the educational pipeline as well, because if they're in it, then there's a higher likelihood that they'll be able to get their children in it because they have some form of information about it.
Then my encouragement for our listeners and all of us is we are the parents, we are the advocates. You are the one who will take this a step further and start recognizing your children's interest, start being able to have an eye for this kind of stuff and look at, oh, okay, STEM, I heard los compas talk about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And here's my son or my daughter interested in this kind of stuff. Maybe I need to take a closer look as a parent. I'm trying to encourage other parents, other brown parents, to just be aware that technology is everywhere, that your kids are exposed to this stuff. I think it would be very beneficial for you to support their interest and, take some action. And like you said, Ruben, take a stand and say, if my child is having this interest in developing or programming or coding, whatever it may be, then I think this is a fantastic opportunity for us parents to step up and say, you know what? Let me scrape up a few $100 and, whatever I can do to support this interest for my son or my daughter, because we need more of us out there.
You don't just have to be the labor. You could go from picking apples to using apples. I think we have to just not set limits, not put boundaries, limitations into the possibilities.
If it's really important to you, then go out there and do that with your kids. Take your kids, go find out where these computer clubs are at, and take your kids there. Say, hey, we're gonna go to a different type of Disneyland today, and expose them. If anything, just exposing them is a big thing, and then they'll remember, hey, I remember my dad took me to a computer club back, when I was like 8 years old. He didn't know what it was about, but he knew that it was important enough to take me, his son, there. That's what we should be doing as parents, taking ourselves out of our comfort zone for our children and for our children's children. If you like what you heard, go ahead and subscribe to our podcast and give us a 5-star review. It really means a lot and would really help out this podcast.
We invite you to visit us at loscompaslounge.com to share your ideas and suggest topics for future episodes.
Until next time, compas, be proud and be brown.
That's right. Be safe.
Till next time.